While we love My Hero Academia's Class 1A and their incredibly quirky students, capable of accidentally breaking their own limbs and making balls from their head, among other things, we have to admit that there are a few things about the group that makes absolutely no sense. And we just have to let you know about all of them. So let's get into it right now. As you all know, Deku was initially a part of the 20% of the population that didn't have a quirk, until he met his idol All Might, and the rest is, well, history. Throughout the series, we've seen Deku unleash his quirk many times, and most of the time, the other students are just freaked out over how cool it is, not realizing that it's the exact same quirk as All Might's One for All. Come on, you guys! The only student who's caught on seems to be Bakugo, who had more context than the other students. But still, he's the only one who knows that it was All Might who made Deku the 9th holder of One for All. So you have to wonder why Bakugo was the only one who made the connection between All Might and Deku's quirk. Now, for storytelling purposes, it makes sense for the character who's jealous or upset with another character to obsess over that character and find their dirty little secret, which is exactly what Bakugo did, but what does that say about the other students? Are they just too dumb to notice? Yeah, we're just gonna say that they chose not to notice so that these rivals can keep on duking it out. UA Academy isn't your regular high school. In fact, I think it's 1,000 times more dangerous than your regular school with all the incredible quirks on display. But that's the main focus of UA High, to help their students learn the ins and outs of their quirks so they could use them to become pro heroes. That's all fine and dandy, but have you seen the way these teachers train their students? They go way too far, way too often. Seriously, the first time we saw Deku and Bakugo fight in a controlled environment, things got really out of hand. Well, it was more of an uncontrolled environment now that we think about it. Seriously, Bakugo was going to end Deku's life if he hadn't unleashed One for All and broke all of his bones. Are there any rules at all in this school? Speaking of which, Deku is constantly breaking them bones, and that is frowned upon, even though all he needs is a kiss from Recovery Girl to heal up. But Eraserhead is the only teacher who ever actually steps in to stop him. Not even All Might. Well, I guess All Might kinda has a pass, considering, well, oh. Other than trying to kill each other with their quirks, the best way for students to learn how to be a pro hero is, well, by spending time with a pro hero in work studies, of course. While this sounds like a super smart and obvious idea, I think it's surprising that they're able to start work studies so early in their education. Think about it. In most professions, you learn all there is to learn and then get thrown in the workforce. They've barely even learned about their quirks and they're already working with a pro hero and saving lives. It's a bit of a stressful spot to be in for a young student, right? Now, it makes sense that the pros would want to recruit members of Class 1A after the way they handled the USJ incident. But that doesn't mean they're ready to go out there and start doing pro hero stuff just yet. Speaking of working with pro heroes, I think I finally figured out why they recruited Class 1A students in the first place. It's because they're better at being heroes than the pros. Okay, that's a really bold statement, I know, but only some of the students get more done than the pros. Not all of them. Deku and his friends managed to take down Stain, a villain who was constantly finding a way to evade and get the better of the pro heroes. Not only that, but the students of Class 1A also had a huge role in defeating Overhaul. All Might seems to be the one who does most of the heavy lifting for the pro heroes, which is ridiculous when you consider the condition he's in. Now, I know that anime needs a plot and the series would be way less interesting if all Deku did was watch All Might kick some butt, but still. I can't help but believe Deku and the rest of Class 1A are a little too good at this whole being a hero business. They shouldn't be able to capture villains that give the pros trouble. The villains know all about Class 1A, so it's not like they're underestimating them either. All I've been doing is talking about Class 1A this and Class 1A that. But have you ever stopped to think about Class 1B for a second? They deserve your attention just as much as Class 1A. Okay, they definitely don't deserve too much attention since they're the boring class. But there are plenty of students in Class 1B who have quirks that are just as good, if not better, than the quirks in Class 1A. Yeah, Class 1A has all the flashier quirks, but Sero's tape quirk is not one of them. Sorry, Zero, I had to say it. The reality of the matter is that Class 1B isn't that much weaker than Class 1A. They just don't have the main character and the secondary characters in their class, so they don't get any attention. It's just by chance that Class 1B is less involved in the events that occur on the show. Or is it because All Might is less involved with them and all the villains want to do is be the one to take him out? It could be both. I do have to think that if Class 1B were involved in the League of Villains hideout raid, they'd be much more well known than they currently are. Have you ever taken a look at some of the students in Class 1A and gone, how the heck are they in this school? Yeah, I asked myself the same question multiple times. Saying the entrance exams for UA High are flawed is a bit of an understatement. They're focused on combat skills more than anything else, even though there's a bunch of qualities that make someone a good hero, other than being strong enough to take down robots. While some of Deku's classmates had no trouble taking out the robots and racking up a high score, proving that they deserve to be in UA High, other characters had me scratching my head trying to figure out how they got accepted into the school. Don't get me wrong, a lot of the students in Class 1A have super useful physical quirks, but it's just hard for me to imagine how they used those quirks effectively against the robots in the exam. Like, how did Mineta score highly on the exam when he's literally scared of his own shadow and can only throw sticky bows from his head? While we'll never know for sure how each of the characters in Class 1A got into the school, I have another question that'll probably never get answered. Why do so many of the students do so poorly in their academics? My Hero Academia makes it clear to the audience that the UA High entrance exams are skewed towards powerful physical quirks, and those with aggressive combat styles. But that doesn't help explain why a lot of the Class 1A students who got accepted aren't the sharpest tools in the shed. A lot of Deku's classmates have trouble with the traditional component of the school, and they often look towards the smartest students, like Momo, who had the highest score on the midterm, for help. It's just so strange that so many of these lesser intelligent characters were able to get into one of the most prestigious hero programs without having better study skills. Considering all that Class 1A's been through, isn't it surprising that none of Deku's classmates have been pulled from UA High by their parents? Think about it. If your son or daughter was constantly running into the League of Villains and always getting into harm's way, wouldn't you want to do something about that? Like, I don't know, get him the heck out of there? Yeah, I know I would, but the world of My Hero Academia is clearly much different than ours. Now, Deku's mom, Inko, did make it clear that her son was stressing her out, and she did her best to try and get Deku to transfer schools. But all it took was a touching speech by All Might to get her to change her mind. The thing is, Inko is the only case we've seen of this in the anime so far. None of the other parents have any issue sending their kids to a school that may or may not be attacked by a gang of dastardly villains each day. Even Bakugo's parents don't care, and they have all the reason to after his kidnapping. I'm not complaining though, because it's pretty awesome that the group is stuck together through all of this. Speaking of the fact that no parents pulled their kids out of the school, I'm surprised that no one's been expelled from the school either. Now, like most of these points, it makes sense for the plot of the show if nobody from Class 1A gets expelled. But there were plenty of opportunities for it to happen. It seems like no matter how many rules Deku and his closest friends break, they can never get expelled. The second time Deku and Bakugo fought, they went out past curfew, caused plenty of damages, and nearly took each other out. And what did they get for breaking so many rules? Just a measly suspension. It's fine. And I didn't expect two of the most important characters in the show to get expelled from the setting where most of the show takes place, but the repercussions for their actions weren't incredibly harsh. Eraserhead himself told the group that they should have been expelled for disobeying orders and rescuing Bakugo from the League of Villains. But he obviously came up with an excuse not to. I just want someone unimportant to get expelled. Maybe the reason why Eraserhead didn't expel anyone was because he likes all of his students and has actually grown fond of them since the first day of class. I know it sounds kinda crazy for a teacher to actually like their class, but it makes a lot of sense and even lines up with what we've seen in the anime. When it's Provisional Hero License exam time, Miss Joke tells Eraserhead that he seems more attached to Class 1A than any of the other classes he's ever had. That, coupled with the fact that he didn't expel anyone in the class after the hideout raid, shows us that he likes the group a lot. But why? I don't know quite what makes this group so special because we know next to nothing about the other groups he's taught, but that's just it. Given that he works at UA High, he was bound to have a group of gifted students at some point before he taught Class 1A. Yep, it looks like his love for Class 1A is just for the convenience of the plot, and I don't have a single problem with that, to be honest. And that is what makes no sense about Class 1A. And I still have no idea how Mineta got into UA High. What do you think's the craziest thing about Class 1A? Let us know in the comments section below, and don't forget to subscribe to CBR for more anime videos. As always, thanks a lot for watching.